Here we go. Good morning, afternoon, or evening to everyone wherever you are. Today is February 8th, 2024, and I am so pleased to have with me Merrilee of Solana, Princess Merrilee of Solana. She is actually royal, and I want to share this conversation with you. I like to call her the Queen of Hearts, and let me explain that. We both worked together for a time at Prepare for Change, and she's not with us anymore, but maybe she'll come back as an advisor. But it's one of those things where you look at somebody and they talk and you go, oh, wow. What's that thing from Avatar? I see you. And I went, this is the Queen of Hearts. She's all about love. And that's before I even knew about the book that she was writing, The Game. And I have purchased it and read it and also listened to some of the inspiring talks that Merrilee has given. And though I don't always get it, I keep trying. And I think that's the whole goal, is to practice, so learn how to use love. Welcome, Merrilee.
Thank you, Kat. I'm excited to be here because, we've been talking about this for a while and it's about time that we do it, and I love talking about love.
Yeah. Been waiting. I waited for 3 years for that book to come out, and I am so glad it finally did.
Well, I'll tell you, people were waiting years, years and longer than 3 years. It took me 6 years. I had no idea that I would encounter the hurdles, the setbacks, all the stalls that came with it. I'm like, no, I'm getting this book out.
Yeah. Does
Yeah.
it feel like there was some sort of interference?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I felt like the devil was saying, no, you don't, no, you don't, and just kept turning me around and bringing the wrong people in. And I said, it doesn't matter what you do, we win. I'm getting the book out.
That's what it felt like, is pushback and even getting this call to happen like we wanted to. But what's interesting is you mentioned a gentleman who actually wrote about you and this journey that you're on, John Lacasse.
Yep. Dr. John Lacasse. Absolutely. Incredible. You know, the whole idea, I talk about love, teach about love. I live love. I made a commitment about love, right? I try to express that when we enter that field, right, into the field of love, there's connections that are happening that are beyond, just me calling you and that, and it comes from who knows where. Right, exactly. And that's how John came into view. And to this day, we still have not met.
Well, that's going to be an interesting meeting. The strange thing that happened, my life is full of synchronicities and intuition. I said, wow, John, writing about you, this sort of sounds like the story of John the Baptist. And you wrote me back and said, what about his father's name?
Yeah, his middle name was Baptist.
Like, you just kept making stuff up.
You can't make it up. Over and over again. It just blows me away and it blows John away. And we're like, well, we don't know how this is happening, but definitely happening.
It's because the timing is right.
Oh, God, yeah.
The news cycle and all the craziness that we're trying to get rid of. And the only way to do that is through our hearts, love, and compassion. How do
Hmm.
you think? I loved reading The Game. There's a lot to it. And yes, you may have to read it a couple times. And we've had some
Oh,
awesome conversations where sometimes you ruffled my feathers, but then I had a chance to sit and think about what you said. And it's like, darn it, she's right. So for some of these people that hear this conversation, if your feathers get ruffled, I'm sorry, but do
hmm,
listen, because there's
yeah.
something here. The messages are so much like those that were from Christ right out of the Bible. So, Marilee, do you consider yourself any kind of a reincarnation or of that bloodline?
I would never assume to say that. No, I would never, never do that. My story is simple. I just committed to the letter. The instruction is for us to love and only love. It doesn't say go out there and start a business. It doesn't say go out there and make a name of yourself. It doesn't say you have to have a lot of money. fame, or anything else. It just, the instruction is love. I want you to love yourself and I want you to love your brother.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I said, okay, I'm going to take you up on that and I'm going to just love and see what happens. And oh my God, is it not easy? It's not easy because the devil comes in and says, "Oh, really? Really? What about this?" Bam, throwing something at you and I took a lot of hard hits. Lot.
I can believe
And
that, especially in this day and age where there's still so much competition. Everybody wants to be right. Everybody has an opinion.
mhm. And everybody's entitled to their opinion, but the proof of the pudding is if you aren't elated with your life, if you are not absolutely amazed at what God is doing in your life at this time, you're not experiencing that favor, the peace in your life, the joy, the profound love of self, there's some work to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mind talking a little bit of, oh, actually, let me show the book. And I don't know if this will work on camera. So I'm going to screen share because I think it's important for people to see it. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. One moment. Sorry for the delay.
Right. I thought you just have it with you.
Oh, well, I do, but when you have background filters on, it doesn't always show well.
Ah, yeah.
Beautiful picture of you, and the book begins,
Ah,
Winning by Virtue, One Move at a Time. And these are, see if this will come up, some of your royal seals. I know it's not the clearest it could be, but I wanted people to see that. You're the real
mm-hmm.
deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a
Yeah,
hard
I'm
one to get through my noggin.
I think it is for a lot of people, because it's not generally accepted and most royalty, which we all are, you just have to own it, right? Most royalty that we have grown to be accustomed to come from money, not character. Yeah. Your sound is off. I can't hear you.
You can't,
There we go. Now it is. It's better.
oh, maybe I wasn't saying anything.
No, I don't know.
There's
So
something that we've talked about, and I think it's the difference between love and money, almost like they're complete opposites.
they are. Yeah. The world is run by money. That's the whole matrix. And in that realm of money, um, the form of exchange, we are in a place of scarcity, in a place of fear, in a place of competition, and we don't always think what's best for our brother. We don't hold ourselves accountable to be better, that we don't have to rise above what would normally be accepted, like, and this is why our courts are filled with injustice and people are hurting. It's because we are hurting each other without knowing it all the time. And we're trying to defend ourselves and it gets worse and worse and worse. And in the end, who wins? The money system.
The lawyers.
That's right. That's right. So we have to learn how to basically operate with each other. How do I navigate this so I'm not causing more pain? Right. And it went to those who are trying to cause pain. How do I get out of it without causing further pain?
Right. And it is about taking back our sovereignty. Why do we give our power to somebody else? Why do we need litigation if we can talk to each other heart to heart? What do we both need in that moment to fix a solution, to come up with a solution that both people are happy with? And that's like you talk about the scarcity, the
Mm-hmm.
competition,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's all ego.
Right. We need an education. Most people were raised in a household with parents who were doing the best they could with what they had, right? And those parents weren't educated. They were just doing the best with what they had. So it's generational over and over again until, somebody says, okay, that's enough. I didn't like that my parents did that. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. But we're all trying to just navigate. And depending on the characters that come into our world, it'll trigger that generational pain. and we can't help it. Because why? We don't have an education. How do I fix it? How do I respond differently that isn't mechanical, that inauthentic, that's making me hold in my anger and my frustration and the pain and trying to play nice.
Mhm.
That's not real and it's not sustainable.
Right.
So when we have an education and we get clarity, we can visualize, I see what's going on here. And then it's easier to be different.
I love that. I having conversation with my mother recently and how we as kids were raised. And I could see we're being pitted against each other to be in competition. Oh, you didn't do as good as your sister or your brother or somebody messed up. And I told her, I recognize it now. There wasn't a book. You did the best you could, but can you see now how it created some trauma down the road? Because we always think we have to be better than somebody else. And that's not really true, is it?
No, and it's basically at the root level, we're not loved. I'm not loved as well. I can never be good enough. And if we can't feel good enough in our parents' eyes, first and foremost, when we look out into the world doesn't care about us. They're not gonna give us what we need. And that's why so many people have to go back and heal that inner child. You have to go back and parent, your child, who you were.
That
And
would,
without an education, how are you going to do that?
that's a tough one. You know,
Yeah,
well, maybe we need some rules. Maybe we need a book, some lessons that
that's right.
guide us.
Hmm.
You want to talk
Yeah,
about some of the rules of the game and how to
sure,
work with love with each other?
sure. I mean, are you going to pull it up, or do you want me to just roll, or how do you want to do this?
It's so hard to screen share without losing it. Um,
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll give you one.
yeah, please.
A knee-jerk reaction that we have is defending ourselves. Okay. We have to protect ourselves from the world, from those words, from our, people thinking that our character isn't so, or calling us out. How dare you? Right? So we have to come to our own defense. That that defensiveness comes from an insecurity within ourselves because we don't know who we are. We don't know where we came from, right? And we don't know how to overcome these hurdles. What do I say in this moment? Well, I'm going to get my sword out because you're attacking me, right? We don't know how not to defend ourselves. What do we do? Another one is because we've been raised in fear. Okay, if we this cloak, this whole veil around existence, right? How are we supposed to learn what true love is if we've all been raised under the veil? It's all been twisted. Okay. So what we do is as we're starting to go through life, clearly I can't do this and I get hit for that and I get consequences for this. I get locked up in my room. My phone was taken away. It's like you're trying to navigate. Oh, well, yeah, yeah. Right? Exactly. And as for a child, you're trying to navigate all these things while making your parents happy. I want you to love me. I don't want you to be mad at me. I don't want to feel bad. And then I go to school and I have to act right. And my classmates don't know how to act. And my teacher doesn't know what to do in love, right? To control the situation so there's a loving outcome. So what happens is I got to go stand in the corner. I got to skip.
Principal's office.
Right, exactly.
What do you
Or I
learn?
have to skip my lunch or something. So we're always learning by consequence. Consequence is a fear, a fear, a fear. So it's perpetuated in everything that we do. As we grow up, when you go into high school, it gets worse. Now you're looking at everybody judging you. You don't fit in, trying to find your way. You're never looking in the mirror. You're always looking at everybody else going, do you like me? Do you like me? Do I fit in? Are we friends? Hey, don't know what we're doing. So then it continues. Now we graduate, we're trying to find a job, and you're doing the same thing over and over again. You don't like the people that you work with. Your boss isn't fair. He's a ruler, a tyrant.
Well, I think we end up as a coping mechanism is joining in little cliques. So then it's us against them, and you're still in the same circumstances.
That's right.
It's a competition and judging.
So there's no unity. There's no true, I love my job. I love my boss. I love my coworkers, and I want to stay. Instead, it's I don't feel appreciated. You're telling me everything that I did wrong. You gave me a nickel for a raise. You wrote me up again, and I don't want to go to work. I don't want to go to work today. And so there's no motivation.
Wow. I can relate to that because I had a boss that I loved and I was scared to death of at the same time, but he paid me well. So here I did. I took money over the love. And
Hmm.
I stayed there for 15 years, and then I remember when I left finally, I had nightmares. So there's trauma that each of us put
Absolutely.
ourselves through because we don't know when to make that decision that it's time to walk away, so that
Well, because you're literally selling your soul.
basically, yeah,
You know that your self-worth is in the toilet. Clearly nobody appreciates you. So you're like, and I keep showing up and I keep showing up and I keep working overtime. Why am I doing this? Right? So at the end of the day, you can't feel good about that job. And you're just doing it for the money.
yeah. I know I appreciated it because he did pay me really well, but it didn't do anything for my sense of self-worth. Could I have gotten a
Right.
job that would have been just as good for pay, but I would have been able to put my heart and soul into something that I loved to do?
Okay, well, here's the thing though, to back up, if he really appreciated what you did and he was paying you well, we'd have to look at you to say, okay, what is making you feel that you are not valued?
Performance anxiety, I guess, right? Am I doing a
Okay,
good enough
so
job?
that's
Say the words.
insecurity, right?
Pat me on the back. Tell me I'm a good girl.
Right. So in the business world, look, I'm paying you. I do appreciate you. I'm paying you a lot of money. What is the problem? But you're like, no, I need affirmation. I need to know that you love me. And you're not telling me that you love me. So that expectation that we have creates another problem within us. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy because already if you were raised in a competitive world where you were not loved individually, then your boss is just doing the same thing over again and reinforcing how you feel about yourself.
Yeah, got to make some changes and soon. And that's so important, even in relationships. I'm watching people whose marriages, long time marriages, are falling apart right now.
Hmm.
Now, why is it?
Right.
It feels like there's more of this happening, though, in the moment.
I think politically and just the environment that we're in is magnifying our differences. Where maybe prior, if there was money involved and we had some sort of security, right? Okay, we got a roof over our head and we can pay. I don't like you, but I don't want to go through losing the house, splitting the bills, finding it on my own. So it's okay to stay. Now, and where we're at now, people are losing their jobs. They don't have money. They're losing their homes. Why am I going to stick it out with you?
Yeah. But it's so strange because it's almost like there's two sides to the world. We've got the one where we're
Yes,
just trying to raise in consciousness
that's
and
right.
feel this love and express this love, share it, and be cooperative, working in groups like we do at Prepare for Change. And then you have the other side that's still embroiled in this competition. Why are we having wars? Why can't we just say, I need this?
Hmm.
It's kind of ridiculous and some sort of a game in and of itself, but not the good kind that you're teaching.
Well, okay, so what you just described is like a castle. When we elevate ourselves, we elevate our consciousness, meaning our awareness. When we can get up higher and have a grander view, then all of a sudden we can understand why this and this and this are happening. The lower down we go, we don't have the same understanding.
No,
We can't see all of all of the players involved, the circumstances, the pain, so we judge.
right. But I also see some of the tactics that are used by media. And if
Mhm.
the things that they're sharing keep us in fear, then we're like that deer in the headlights and
Yeah.
we're missing everything else around us. So we have to find a way to get out of that. Well, I guess it's just turn the channel, right? Turn it off
Right. We
because
have to
truth is,
remember, right. We have to remember that our life is in front of us. It's not what's in the TV. Anything in there can be a program, you
right.
know? Right. So whether it's the news or the Flintstones, somebody wrote it and it's a program. And we get to choose whether or not we believe it, if it affects us emotionally, or if it's going to affect our household.
Right.
The only thing that's real is what's in front of us right now. Start there.
In
If
the
you can
moment.
treat, yeah, if you can treat this person, your husband, your neighbor, the clerk, who with kindness, with love, with patience, one person at a time, one response at a time, then you elevate and everything goes smoothly. You start to iron out all the problems in your life.
I love that philosophy. I really do. And I think it's important if you go out in public, make eye contact with somebody, say hello. Oh, your hair looks
Yeah.
beautiful, or I love that blouse, whatever, just little things. And
Hmm.
oh my goodness, it's like the rest of the day is improved. If somebody notices me and is kind like that, I'm elevated. If I
Right.
do that for somebody else, I'm sure they are as well. Some of these little things that we could do
Hmm.
instead of I don't see you, I'm on my journey.
Hmm.
We're just so unconscious. Many, I feel like I say everybody, but there are a lot of people that are still unconscious in the world, focusing on themselves and forgetting to give a little something. Love your neighbor as yourself.
Right. Okay. So the example that you gave, there's an inferiority, there's a lack of personal respect there. So when somebody is always just avoiding what's going on here and they're just here, literally what's going on in there is they're not being seen. Okay. So the person, like, there are plenty of times I'm walking my dogs or something and somebody will be coming toward me and just keep their head down. I'm like, I'm here. Why don't you just say hello? And I will literally be waiting for them to look up, and it's almost like they're purposely avoiding. And if they're purposely avoiding, I respect that. And I just, let it go.
I don't
But
know.
it's unfortunate.
It is. I remember
Hmm.
I was leaving the parking lot and somebody had her car right where I was. So I couldn't back up. I didn't want to hit her. So I'm waiting and the lights are on and it's pretty clear that I'm there. And I rolled down my window like, hello. Nothing, not a single response.
Yeah.
And then trying to be really careful with my words, but it was like, thank you, have a nice day. When you're kind of feeling the opposite because you're angry.
Right. But why are we angry? Are we in a hurry?
No, it's just that totally being ignored when you're trying to be polite and kind and patient.
So
And
is it okay? Is it being ignored? You expect them to acknowledge you because
just a
they
nod.
are we assuming? Okay, so that happened to me not too long ago, actually. I was at the farmer's market and I was on the driver's side of my car getting in to put my stuff away, and the space next to me was open. And there was a car waiting to get into the space. I was completely oblivious to this car. And I'm just doing whatever it is I'm doing, and I finally stand up and I look over and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And that's when they knew I really didn't know
Yeah.
because I acknowledged them and I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. And then later on, I spoke to them as well. But in that moment, he was getting heated that I wasn't moving out of the way. Yeah,
Interesting. That's our misperceptions of the event. We made an assumption, right? Made
correct. That's right. That's right. And if I were insecure in who I am, I wouldn't have acknowledged him. I wouldn't have said, I'm sorry. It's just like, hey, I'm taking care of my business. So what?
You know
I'm
what?
entitled.
I'm glad that you said that. Do you think apologizing goes a long ways if it's sincere?
Of course. Always acknowledge when we're in the wrong. Always. And because people don't know if they're making assumptions, which we do, right? Correct the record within yourself. Apologize. Take that opportunity right there to just say, you know what? I didn't see you there. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
It's gonna change the whole vibration, the whole energy of the space. Yeah.
Well, hopefully making it lighter. And I like to infuse a little humor, so please forgive me if I bust up. I was started laughing when you mentioned the Flintstones because it's in my head as soon as you say it. Little feet running under the car.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes humor is not appropriate.
No, humor is always appropriate. Well, maybe not always. You're right. You're right. I mean, there are times in humor, but we're talking about the opposite of sarcasm. Sarcasm is never right.
One of the
Okay.
rules.
Right. And humor, right, we can use what?
I listened to a recording that you offered our group, and it went through a whole list of virtues. And it took me 2 times through, maybe 3 times, 6 pages of notes. And one of the things that came up that drives me crazy, and I try really hard not to do it, is when in an argument, somebody dumps a wheelbarrow of things that they've saved up, gripes that they've never bothered to talk about with you and deal with them one on one, and it becomes the slam, in an
Right.
argument.
Right. They're dumping.
Yeah, it's a dump.
Yeah. Right. So they're dumping and they're using all the ammunition that they've been stockpiling for this moment to just ram you with. Instead of staying current in the moment, what was the problem that triggered that? Take a breath and stick to the point.
I've been in situations where the voices start escalating and you don't want to be the person that's yelling back because now nobody can hear each other. And the brick walls go up, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
how do you diffuse a situation where you can see it's escalating? What do you recommend?
Well, when it's okay, when you see it's escalating, you have to take responsibility. What triggered it? What did I say right now to make you defensive? What did I do right now to disrespect you? I have to listen carefully to what you're saying now and then become objective. I have to detach. So instead of arguing my point, arguing while I'm right, pushing back at you while you're pushing back at me, and we're both getting louder.
Yeah.
No. If
Again,
we're going to stay in love, somebody has to stop and listen.
sometimes easier said than done in the heat of the moment, but this is what the rising of consciousness and awareness is, to be able to step back and say, oh, it's out of control. I need to be the adult, take a step back and ask that question. What did I do to trigger this? I like that you said that. And sometimes it's
Well,
though.
right. In that moment, you don't want to ask your player, what did I do to trigger this? In that
Address.
moment, I'm asking myself,
Okay.
what did I just do? What did I say to trigger this? And then you start to watch. Okay, you're going to watch their emotions, where they're going with this. Are they going to start dumping on you? Are they going to start blaming you? Are they going to redirect? Are they going to bring people in to support their argument?
Hmm. I'm glad to not have been in a situation like that. I was just thinking maybe let me know if this is wrong, but
Okay.
could you take a breath and say, okay, I'm sorry, this is getting out of hand. Can you tell me what I did that upset you just now? Why are we yelling at each other instead of talking?
If I don't have the emotional intelligence to calm down and answer that question, it's going to trigger me further.
Ah,
My response to you is, really? You don't know what you did?
Uh, but in the moment, we may say things that we don't even remember.
Well, obviously we're too heated.
Yeah, exactly. Is there a time when it's best to say, hey, I need to walk away a minute and cool down, then I'll be back and we can talk about this further? Would you recommend that?
Yeah, you can definitely take a break. Definitely take a break. However, when the relationship is at a point where both parties get triggered so fast, okay, and now everybody's yelling again until they take a break, you have to imagine it's like two people being in a ring, okay, and they're both in their corners, and they come in and they're fighting it out and they're exhausted. Okay, so ding, 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 let's go back to our corner, let's take a break. But we have to understand that every time you go in the ring, all you're going to do is start doing this again. And you're both just jumping around trying to see who's going to take the first jab, and you're on your toes because you know that they can hurt you. All respect is lost at that point. And the only thing you can do to make that come to an end is to leave the ring.
Isn't that what you call losing your king or your queen?
Yeah, it's game over.
So what about forgiveness? I know we've talked about this, but I'd like to
Good.
express it here.
Yeah. So forgiveness, first of all, forgiveness has been so twisted in the idea of forgiveness. If you hurt me, right? I'm told that I need to forgive you. And if I forgive you, then that's for me, right? It relieves me of my pain and the burden of carrying that anger. Well, okay. But why do people struggle with it? If it's so logical like that, why do we struggle with letting go?
The pain is still there, would be my guess. And now you don't trust that person to not hurt you again. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, you don't trust them. You know they're going to hurt you again, but we're talking about forgiveness.
Okay.
So, number one, I don't have the authority to forgive you. Okay. I don't have that authority. I need to understand that however you choose to behave is how you choose to behave. I have nothing to do with that. And I'm going to make sure to watch my words so I'm not hurting you. Okay. Now, if you choose to hurt me somehow or another, I have to understand that number one, I can't play a victim. I'm choosing to be in the ring. Okay. If I'm going to choose to be in the ring over and over again, then the only one I have to forgive is myself later when it gets to be too much and it's over. All that time you invested thinking, I'm going to give you one more shot. We've talked about this 1,000 times. You know that this hurts me, and you continue to do it, and it doesn't go anywhere. Well, eventually, when it crumbles and it's over, the pain of hanging on, the pain of investing, the pain of endurance, of putting up with all of the abuse, trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, trying to love them through it, and it doesn't change because the respect is gone.
Right.
Right. So the forgiveness comes in. I have to forgive myself for not putting me first.
Good point.
Yeah. I have to forgive myself for not recognizing my player, giving you the benefit of the doubt, making allowances for you, making excuses for you, allowing you to continue to hurt me with the expectation if I continue to tell you the problem that you were going to change. And you're not. And I got to forgive myself for that.
That was part of the rules when I first met my husband. This is who I am. Please don't expect me to change. And I'm not expecting you to change. That's not my job. Either we get along and love each other or we don't. And yet there are people in the world who get into these uh, codependent relationships and they keep forgiving and never quit. I'm sure they don't forget that they've been hurt. And I don't understand why they continue to stick it out. So what do you have advice for people that have that weakness? Is there a way to help bolster them to know when it's
And
time to walk away?
yeah, as soon as the respect is gone, the moment the respect is gone, it's over. And unfortunately, most people don't catch it. It could be the first phone call before the first date. It could be the first date. It could happen over and over again. You're not catching it because you're making allowances for it because you want to be in love. And you think if you have an adult conversation and you lay down your non-negotiables, right, that it's going to proceed, without a hitch. Like, okay, sure, I understand. No, no, it's not how it goes. We need to understand what it is we're looking for in another person. So what am I looking for? Well, I like him to be tall, dark, and handsome. I like a little muscle. I want him to drive a nice car and take me out. No, no, that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for character. Okay, because if you don't know how to identify character, I guarantee you 100% you're going to get hurt.
Yeah. It's all the superficial things that people put first. It's hard
Yes.
not to be attracted, but yeah, if you don't get that contact, that zing, like when I first saw you, I see you for who you are. If you don't have that absolute connection with somebody right away, then maybe sit back and watch
Well,
a little bit before getting into any commitments.
well, that's true. However, we are electrical beings. And if we have the physical appearance that's attractive, okay, and we have a personality that seems to be attractive to our player, we think, well, look at how much we have in common. I like to talk, you like to listen. We both like movies, we both like dinner, we both like, and you're not seeing what's coming. And so because we're not able to identify our player through these five gates, I guarantee you're going to get hurt every single time. And this is why there's things like, the 90-day rule. The honeymoon's over in 90 days. Yeah.
Can you expand on the five gates? What are those?
The five gates to recognizing your player, I laid them out. Number one is our physical appearance. Okay, this is how we are attracted to people physically. No brainer. Number two is our personality. Now, our personality has been twisted with character. So when you are playing a character in a movie or something, right? They wear a cowboy hat and they're on a horse, right? It's a character. No, that's a personality. That's not character. Okay, it's the same with the Barbie. That's her character. No, that's the movie character, but that's not character. That's her personality in the movie. So because we fail to identify the difference between personality and character, we're always getting lost in people, and then we didn't recognize the red flags. We didn't honor the red flags. We just keep making allowances for people going, no, they really didn't mean to do that. They didn't mean to say that. That's not really who they are. Well, I self-sacrifice all the way.
I'm hoping that people don't think that there are no good relationships out there, because that's not what you're saying. This is to
Um,
prepare you for a good relationship that lasts.
it sounds like there's no good people out there, and quite honestly, there isn't. And we all say that. And that's why we're all falling in love with our animals because our faith in humanity is so low, right? Okay. Clearly, all of us, we want to be good people so bad. We want to be good to each other. We just want to love. We just want to be loved purely, honestly. No games, no manipulation, no betrayal. Please don't treat me that way. I want to be able to trust you. And without understanding these five gates, and being able to discern between these rules and these pieces, you're going to continue to get hurt every single time. So it's not that people are bad people. It's just you're getting two people who don't understand the mechanism. And so then you start fighting. And then we have, but relationships are hard. We fall back on that. Relationships are hard. The hardest relationship is the one with yourself. And that's the one we don't work on.
Right. It's hard to
Right.
look in the mirror sometimes
That's
and to
right.
do the deep introspection. And,
Right.
I like to say that every failure is a chance to learn. So there's a lot of life experiences that we have that may not turn out the way we wanted, but what's the lesson? If I get in a fight with somebody, what's the takeaway from that? Were they a mirror for my own shortcomings? Was it being reflected back that I may have caused that? And I think in a lot of cases, that's probably what it is.
We don't see ourselves.
Yeah.
We literally do not see the way we formulate sentences. Those words that we choose will typically break a rule. Yeah. Because we see with our eyes, we make an assumption based on our fears, we come to a conclusion, and then we respond. And none of that is true. And we don't seek to understand. We try to outsmart our player. We don't want to be stupid. We don't want to be stupid because we're so insecure. We don't know what to trust. We don't even know if we're trustworthy. You should know and know that you know you're trustworthy, not just assume that you are.
Happens.
There's, you're right. Mm-hmm. There's a formula. There's a formula for trust. And I like to say that trust is like having a treasure box. And in this box, I put everything that I hold dear. Okay. Everything in my life is in this box. I'm going to give it to you. Can you hold this?
Better trust them.
I don't even know you. I just met you. And over again, you see it with not women, with couples. Like people meet each other and the first thing they do is like, well, we're adults, consenting adults. Let's go have sex. You gave away that box. And
Sorry.
you're right. And
Yes.
you're doing it over and over again, assuming that if I give you my body, you're going to love me back and all of my possessions are in here. And now you just squandered them and you're not going to call me back?
But that was that preconceived notion on,
Right. Right.
so don't
I
have
haven't
expectations, right?
Right. I have a need. I want to be loved. You seem to be interested in me. So if I trust you with my box, you're going to take care of it, right? And they're like, what box? What are you talking about? They have no idea who they are. They can't, they have no box and they're not going to take care of yours.
Let's change that to heart.
Yeah, well, your heart, your money, your everything that you hold dear, because it's all at risk. And if I don't know how to take care of my own box so that I understand how precious it is, when you bring me yours, I'm going to squander it.
So for anybody out there, everybody out there, I recommend reading the book more than once. How can people contact you to ask you questions? Actually, what I'd like to do is have you on as a guest speaker for our Ascension Connection calls, maybe
Hmm.
starting as soon as next week, but we'll get that scheduled. I would love it if people could show up and ask questions on how to get through life as unscathed as possible and hopefully
Right.
have a king and a queen at the end, by
Hmm.
learning the rules.
That's right. Because we have to stop the pain and we have to take responsibility for our part in the pain. It's easy for us to say, yeah, we want to stop the pain. What are you talking about? Me? I'm not doing it. And if we're all saying that, I'm not doing it. Somebody's doing it.
They say the change that what we want to happen globally has to start with each of us individually.
That's
Otherwise,
right.
it's just not going to happen. And the more we elevate in consciousness, the more we elevate those around us, some faster than others. We have to try. So, this is my invitation for you to come and be a guest speaker for our group.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to. I would love to. Let me relieve some pain. Definitely.
And if somebody wants to send you an email, are you willing to take questions or be contacted that way? Or just
Uh, the best thing to do would be to right now. I'm preparing to launch my app, and on the app, we'll all have a place for questions, and everybody can get together and ask and work on the game, and throw ideas around, and I'll be there to guide. But right now, probably the best place I would say is to go on to my podcast with John and listen to High in the Canopy on Spotify. And then you can leave questions there.
okay.
And because we talk about it all the time, every day we have a discussion, we're talking, and you can write your questions either related to the podcast, or if you have a different question for me, leave it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's so much information out there about you. Just get on the internet and type in Merrilee of Solana. Actually, isn't that your website, merrileeofsolana.com?
hmm
And I'll
hmm
share that on the screen one more time for people to see. Because I
Yeah.
even sometimes mess up the spelling of your name. Forgive me for that. So merrileeofsolana.com. This is where you
you
can
know,
read articles. She's got how many books have you written now?
well, the game that's my book. That's my whole book. I've got I think what, six others. Yeah, I have a seventh coming up. hmm
Something with animation, animated or
Okay. Well, that's actually the platform that I'm on. I'm a part of Dream Changers Publishing. They're all for children's education K through 12. And my book, along with other things, will be used for educating our children through comic books and cartoons and movies and event centers. It's really quite exciting.
that is, as opposed to
Yeah.
the games with fighting and shooting each other. You teaching what we haven't been able to get out of school is going to be so important because the next generation, I think, is going to be more open and accepting to these ideas because it is that time of the season. We're starting a whole new cycle, this age of Aquarius that we've all been talking about.
That's right. That's
So
right.
I'm excited about it.
That's right. We are in the age of Aquarius, and it appears that we are ascending. We're all going to ascend at the same time, but better to be safe than sorry. Get a head start. Yeah, get a
It's
head
like
start.
believing in God to be safe rather than sorry. But there's a time when you just know that there's something bigger than all of us and learning to follow the rules that were given to us. And Marilee, I can't help but think that you're part of that 2,000-year-old cycle. You're bringing it back at a time when the world needs it most. And it might start out small, but I think it'll be like an avalanche when the information starts spreading and people are really going to want to know. So
It's really, thank you. I appreciate that. It's really very exciting. My partner, Dr. John Lacasse, with his book, Deals Danger Destiny, it's an autobiography that moves into my story in the second book, Floppy Feathers, which we're waiting for. And it is very exciting for this day and time.
I still think it's odd and wonderful that I looked at his name and I went lacrosse instead of Lacoste. My brain just did that automatically. Oh, John the Cross, Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, and the teaching, because you also do as I do. We use a lot of words, quotes right out of the Bible from Christ himself. And I do believe strongly that that is the way to move forward is in love. It's all written out. And now you're giving it
Right.
purpose and format. that is easier to understand.
What
For
it does is that, yeah, it simplifies the complexity of love. So instead of it just being about kindness and patience, generosity and gratitude, we get to see our blind spots and how we're not being loved and how we're pushing it away, destroying our relationships.
well, I guarantee that the game is easier than reading the Bible. Uh, and
Hmm.
you might still read it twice, but thank you for all that information and how you've laid it out so clearly and in such a loving way. Um,
Thank you.
in a rainy day in California, you are a ray of sunshine. So
Aw,
so
thank you.
much for sharing your time with me.
Yeah, I look forward to next week. We'll see what
Yeah,
people have to say.
get it scheduled up and we'll have you back.
Okay,
This
thanks,
way
Kat.
everybody can participate, and I think that'll be good.
Oh, we'll have fun. We'll have fun. Let's start solving some problems, relieving some pain, and moving forward.
Yeah, there may be tears, there may be laughter. It's all good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Marilee.